So we're up to our stitch marker, so we're just popping that one out. So we know this has to be an increase because it's a very first stitch marker. Putting your stitch marker back in. And because on the previous row, this row was just one in each stitch, on this row it was a increase, there's the other increase, and there was 3 stitches in between. So now we need 4 stitches in between our increase. So we've got an increase, that's 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then an increase. So that's 2 stitches in the same stitch, but I'm sure you already know that by now. So there we go, so increase here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase there. We're going to repeat this all the way around until we get to our next stitch marker. So it's increase 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase. Keep going, repeating that until we get to our next stitch marker. And what you will notice, let me just adjust the camera so we can get a better look at my one. All the junk on the side there. What's happening is, and should be happening with yours, and if you don't find it isn't, next time use a smaller hook and it will help. At the back it's starting to go up straight at the back. But at the front here between our 2 stitch markers, it's laying flat or close to flat. It may be up a little bit, but it's close to flat. So we're flaring out this front part because we've added all our increases. But because we haven't added them up here, it's going straight up. Or straight down, actually, when it's on your head. So once we finish our increases and we get all the way to our stitch marker here, then we're going to do 1 stitch in each stitch until we get to where we join. So increase what we're doing at the moment until we get to this stitch marker, and then 1 in each stitch till we get to there, which is where we join. So I'm still in that same row, I'm just finishing off my increases. First stitch marker there, increase, 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 second stitch marker here. Now you might have those extra stitches, but remember I said it's just a guide. So if it's not in the right spot, we aren't going to worry about it, are we? We don't want to stress. So I've done my increase there. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to move it up there. Because it's a guide, it's not exact. We don't do anything perfect, do we? So now we've got to our stitch marker and it's just 1 in each stitch until we get to, where is it? There. Till we get to where we started. So 1 in each stitch. So stitch markers are normally used to tell you where a certain stitch is. But in this pattern, I'm calling them reminders because it's reminding us to stop. And that way we don't have to count our stitches, we don't have to count our increases, we can just crochet along until that stitch marker jumps out in front of us. It says, hey, are you forgetting something? You need to stop increasing or start your increasing. So 1 in each stitch until we get to here. So I'm just finished off my row and we are going to join. Now this is our last row of our increasing. I didn't work another row of just 1 stitch in each stitch before I started doing my decreasing. Remember, we only decrease at the front here between our stitch markers. We don't decrease on the sides here. But if you want to, you can. You will get a very slightly different look to the hat. But I didn't do it with the other 2 that I've made. I think 2? Yeah, the other two that I made, so I'm just going to stick with what I did. I may adjust the next one I do to see if it does look any different, but hey, you can if you like. It doesn't make any difference to the pattern because you're only doing one in each stitch. You're not going to lose or gain any stitches. It will just make it look slightly different at the front and will give you an extra row in your length. So now let's get on to the decrease row. But again, like we have the whole way around, we only work our different stitches in between our stitch markers. So our decreases are going to be in those stitches now, and anything that's up here, it's just one in each stitch. So you've joined, you're going to do your single crochet chain 1 or your chain 3, and you're going to double crochet 1 in each stitch until this very first stitch marker. So first stitch marker, we're going to take that out, and we're going to do a double crochet decrease. So if you don't know how to do that, you yarn over, you go into the next stitch, which is adjust my camera, sorry, there we go. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, you've got 3, yarn over, pull through 2. So you've basically nearly completed your double crochet, except you haven't yarned over and pulled through 2. So you're going to leave that like that, you're going to yarn over, you're going to go into the next stitch, you're going to yarn over, pull up a loop 4, yarn over, pull through 2, we go 3, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. And what that does is make these 2 stitches become one at the top. So getting your stitch marker wherever it's gone and putting it back into there. So back in that stitch there. So it'll remind us on the next round what we're doing. Each stitch across, we're going to work another double crochet decrease. So over the next 2 stitches, it's going to become one. Going into the stitch, do we need to zoom this in just a little bit? Yarning over, pulling up a loop, there's 3. Yarning over, pulling through 2. Leave those on the hook. Yarning over, going into the next stitch. Yarning over, pulling up a loop. You have 4. Yarning over, pulling through 2. Got 3. Yarning over, pulling through all 3. You've just done another double crochet decrease. So we're going to repeat this all the way until that stitch marker around the other side. And what this is doing is pulling in the front of the cap, because at the moment it looks nothing like a hat. It kind of looks like a squashed pancake with sides on one end, which yeah, doesn't look like a hat, but it will very soon, don't worry. So keep going until you get to your stitch marker. So here's our stitch marker. You can work the decrease over the next 2 stitches. If you've only got 1 stitch left, you can choose to do it or you can choose not to do it. It is up to you, because it's only a guide, remember. So if you've got 2 stitches left, do the decrease. If you've got 1 left, don't do it. That was very professional, wasn't it, those instructions? So I'm just moving the stitch marker up. And now, because we've got to our second stitch marker, you know what to do, don't you? It's 1 stitch in every stitch until we get to here. And we're going to join our row. So now we're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch until we get to the first stitch marker. Sometimes I show the beginning of the row, actually all the time I try to show the beginning of the row, because we do have people that watch the videos who don't speak English, and what they're doing is following what they can see me doing rather than what they can hear. which is very good, I think. I follow a lady, I think she's Spanish, and I can't understand a thing she says because I do not speak Spanish, but she is such a good instructor that I can pick it up just by what she's doing. So just one stitch in every stitch until we get to here. So our next row is another decrease row. I'm going to take my stitch marker out. First stitch we're going to do a double crochet decrease. So it's into the stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, leaving those on. Next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 3, putting that back on. And we're decreasing every second stitch now, so that's our decrease. Our next one, we're going to work 1 double crochet. Our next one, or our next 2, we're going to decrease those ones. So working your decrease. And we're going to repeat this all the way around till we get to our stitch marker. So it's 1 in the next. And decrease over the next 2. One double crochet in the next, and then a double crochet decrease until we get to our stitch marker. And we're going to end on a decrease. So I've just done my 1 stitch. I'm going to decrease on this stitch. And then move that one back. And then we're going to do 1 stitch in every stitch around, remember, because we've gone past our second stitch marker. And we need to go back to, whoops, back to where we join, and it's only 1 stitch in each stitch. Your hat should start to be taking shape now because of our decrease rows. It's brought the front of the cap in. So now the next row is just 1 stitch in each stitch. So we're just neatening off, if that's even a word, making it neat around here. So we're just going to do 1 stitch in each stitch all the way around. So putting your hook, doing your chain 3 or your single crochet chain 1, or even using Beth's method, which I'm yet to try. I'm definitely trying that on my next project because I found out about it halfway through this one, so I didn't want to change in case it looked different to what I had been doing. So 1 stitch in each stitch. And if you haven't been over to Beth in Texas 1 YouTube channel, make sure you drop in there and say hi. Great video tutorials, and also videos that shows you what she's been making, what Beth's been making. There's also a Facebook page that she has. Great place to get a lot of inspiration. So 1 stitch in each stitch all the way around until we get back to here. We want to join our work, and now the next row is going to be single crochets. If your hat is slightly big on the head that you are making it for, you can use this row to adjust it and make it smaller. Now I know that this fits my head, so I don't need to make any adjustments, but I will show you what you can do if you need to make adjustments. So working a single crochet all the way around here, so going into every stitch you're going to work single crochets. But if you need to decrease your hat slightly, what you can do is work a single crochet decrease. So going into the next stitch, pulling up a loop. You've got 2 loops on your hook. You're going to leave those 2 loops like that, and you're going to go into the next stitch. You're going to pull up a loop, and you're going to have 3 stitches on your hook, and you're going to pull through all of those loops. If you don't want to have decreases around and you have to make it smaller, try dropping down a smaller size hook, and this could also make the beanie smaller, or the cap smaller I should say. It's not a beanie. But I know this fits me, so I just need to do 1 stitch, 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch around until we get back to where we've started. And this is the end of our cap part. Now we need to go on to the brim. So we're going to cut off our yarn and just pulling it through the loop. Sew in your ends. And you know those stitch markers that have been driving us crazy? Well, we're not finished with them yet. I just need to move mine up because I forgot. So now it's onto the brim. So I just need to move the camera to get this angle of this one so you guys can see what I'm doing. Let's put that out of the way. So what we're going to be doing is working our stitches, working our brim stitches over the stitches that we've got marked. First of all, we want to make sure, just in case our stitch markers have moved not quite right, which is fine, we want to make sure it's even down here. So grabbing the back of your hat, you're going to just fold it in half, like so. This is the front and this is the back, because you want to find the center of here. So maybe just put your hook in the center stitch that we have here. So that's the camera again, sorry guys. So I've just pulled it so it's got the center stitch, making sure it is. So see how my stitch markers don't line up? We need to just fix that. You're going to need approximately 8 stitches on each side of your stitch here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put it in there. On the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This looks really tiny for a brim, but we actually gain stitches as we go along, so it is actually going to get wider than that little section there. If you find this section is too big, so it's basically just covering where we did our decreases, which were, if I can find them. Okay, so that's my first decrease here. See how, is it there? Where is it? Yeah, there's a decrease. No, there's not. Here it is here. My first decrease is there. So I actually want to move it closer. So just above and a little bit to the side. So my decrease is here, and I've just moved it over 2 stitches. So how many is that from the center? I guess my last one, so this is why I've actually got to count this one. So we've got the centre stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. So 7 stitches plus the middle, so that's 8, and then 7 stitches. Now, take your hook out. You want to grab your yarn, but we need 2 strands, so we've got one there. Oh, sorry, bashing the camera up. And just bear with me whilst I find the other end of my yarn. So I've got one coming out from the centre here, and then this one is the one that's wrapped around the outside. So I'm just unwinding a little bit of yarn. And we're just going to move the camera. And finding both ends of the yarn. Or you can just use another ball, of course, which would be much easier. We're going to attach our yarn. And we want to be looking at the outside of our hat. So my inside has my tail hanging out. Yours may not, depending on how you work your tail in when you start. The outside of the hat is going to be facing you. The back side of the hat is going to be at the back. Front side of the hat is going to be at the front of you. Grabbing your yarn, finding that first stitch where it's marked, putting your hook in there, and this little baby, bye bye, see you later, we don't need you anymore. So joining in your yarn, try and go over your tails if you can, that will have one less thing to sew in. So we've just done a chain stitch to secure. When we are working this, we actually, instead of working here into where we normally go into a stitch, we're going to go down and see where this single crochet is coming out of there, where my fingernail is. We're going to be working into that part of the stitch. So where single crochet from the previous row was worked, that's where you're going to work. We are going to do a single crochet. And we're going to work another single crochet into the same space. Now, depending on the yarn that you are using, your brim may have to be adjusted, and it's all in this first row. I'm going to be doing an increase, then one by itself, and then 2 into the same stitch for the increase. If you find your brim is too tight when you've finished, you may have to pull it undone, and you can go back and decrease the amount of stitches that you had in between your increase. So you've got 2 at the moment, you'll have 2. Pull it back until you've got 1 in between your increase, and then the next one is an increase. And that will help you have the brim so it's not so tight. So by meaning tight, I mean it doesn't like form the curve properly, it's trying to lay flat. But I found that this method works with this yarn, so if it doesn't work out the first time, don't panic, you can adjust it. If you have any problems, leave a message or send me a private message and I'll see if I can help you out. So we've got 2 in the first one, we're going to go into the next one for 1 single crochet. We're going to go into the next one, and we're not going into the top of the single crochet, we're going to where it was worked in the previous row. So there's a single crochet coming out of this stitch, working into there. So we've got 2 into the same for an increase, 1 by itself, and then one increase into the next one, so 2 stitches in that next hole. So it's 1 by itself, 1 by itself, and then an increase. Let's just zoom in a bit here, guys. See what we're doing. It's a bit hard to see because it's 2 strands, but there's 2 in that one, one in that one, one in that one, two in there, one in that one in that one, and two in that one. Repeat this until we get to our stitch marker. So it's 1, 1, and 2, 1, 1, and 2, and then we're just going to keep going until we get to our stitch marker. So that's 1 and 1. If you don't end on an increase, it does not matter. And this stitch marker, guess what? You're following your friend. Bye bye. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work around. So now we're going to work back across the brim that we just started off here. So going into the next stitch, that's the first one there, going into the next one, working a single crochet, and we're going to do this all the way across the row. And I'm going to keep the video running if my yarn behaves itself. It never behaves itself when it's on camera. So just follow along, one in each, until we get to the end. So I bet you're glad to see those stitch markers go. They do tend to drive you crazy. So if you haven't joined our Facebook page, please go over there and join us. We have over 4,000 members, and it is a fantastic place to share your creations and also get inspiration and help. There's a lot of helping going on that page, which is great to see, because we all get stuck on something, even me. So now we want to make our brim attached down to this part here. So we're going to miss that stitch here, because that is our next stitch, but we're going to work down like this, like we did before on here. We're going to single crochet, make sure this stitch is tight so that it starts to curve over, and we're going to slip stitch into that same row below for 2 stitches. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work. Now we're going to, oh, sorry guys, I keep bashing this camera. What's going on? Did you feel the earth move? It looked like it did on my camera. So across, we're going to do that increase row again. So we are going to skip the first one because it's our chain 1. Actually, no, we're not, because we need to do our increase first, don't we, guys? See, I'm not paying attention. So we've got our chain 1, counts as our first stitch, and we're going to increase when we get our stitch in there. We're going to do a single crochet into that same stitch. We are going to do 1 into the next stitch, 1 into the next stitch, and increase into the next one. 1 into this one, 1 into that one. And if you have a brim pattern, you can probably just use the one that you already know or you already like. I'm pretty sure it'd work on this. I haven't obviously tried it myself because everyone's got their own different way. So it was an increase, 1 and 1, and then an increase. I'm just going to keep the camera rolling for the brim. So it's 1 in the next one, 1 in the next one, and an increase. And you're going to repeat this all the way across. So I'm just going to speed ahead. Now it doesn't matter how you end. I actually have to end with one single crochet. Don't forget that last stitch. And now we want to make this part of the brim curl down to there. But because we've got 3 rows to go down to, actually probably 4 because we have to go down and below, we're going to do a half double crochet just on this side because we've got more to go down than we did on the other end. So the half double crochet stitch, wrapping your yarn, going down to that row below, is just a little bit higher and won't make it look funny. That's pulling through. Did you get that? Sorry, I did actually make a mistake, so I'll show you again. Down into the row below, yarning over, going into the stitch, pulling through, 3 on the loop, 3 on the hook, pull through all 3. We're going to slip stitch 2, still going in that row below, 1 and 2. We're going to chain 1. We're going to turn our work. Now with the brim, depending on the thickness of yarn that you have, will depend on how many rows you have to have. So let's get one I prepared earlier. Don't you just love saying that? Like on the cooking shows. This brim has been done. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows I think. So what you need to do is lay your hat down like it's going to be on your head. Smooth it out. And make sure that the brim lines up with the top. Sure, if you want to make it longer, go for it too. That's how I made this one. So you're going to keep repeating these rows. One row is single crochet only, and the other row is our increase row. And you're going to repeat that until your brim is long enough. Remembering that when you get to the end, you have to go down into that row below. So from now on, you'll only use a single crochet in that row below. I think we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to do 2 more rows, or I do, depending on your yarn. And there goes the phone. So when we come to the end of our brim, you can slip stitch down there. But on the other end, it has a bit that sticks out like that. So if you don't like that, and to me it looks a little bit funny, you can either stitch it down with a needle and thread, or single crochet all the way around and then slip stitch 2 here, and that will make it look like it continues on and you don't have this little tiny gap. So we're just going to single crochet in the single crochet, and we're just going to repeat this around till we get to the other end of the brim. So when we get back around, just making those stitches in there. We're going to slip stitch to that little bit on the brim there. And this make it look like there is no gap. So cut off your tails, sew in your ends, and we're just about finished. So laying your hat down, and I'll show you how I got it to look like that. Move the camera so we can get a bit more view. Oh, and there goes a message on my phone. It's all going on today. Phone's ringing, messages are going. So just lay it upside down and then just fold that part in and then spread that part out. So now we want to either put our button on or make our stitches. So I don't have any red thread that's this colour on hand. So what I'm going to do is just untwist the yarn if you can, and then grab one of the pliers. You may have to play around with this, and because it's on camera it is not going to work, is it really? You can almost guarantee that. Oh, there it goes. Nope, it's working. Wow. It's a miracle. Grabbing your needle and then grabbing your hat we want to just find the center point of the brim. So just eyeball it, you can measure it if you need to. And we are going to sew the button at the back of the brim here. You don't want it right at the front because you're going to see it. You're going to go middle to back. Now I may change the colour of this button, but I'm just using it for demo purposes because it stands out against the yarn. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see it through my stitches, so just sew it on a couple of times, tie a knot in the back and then sew in your ends. So there we go, here's my finished hat. Sorry about the light guys because it's starting to get dark here. So please share your photo on our Facebook page, or you can email them to me in the description box below. There will be an email address that you can send your finished projects to. So I hope you enjoy this video. Till next time, happy crochet, and this is my last video for the year because it's actually New Year's Eve, so wherever you are in the world, Happy New Year!